Hey everybody, welcome to Ask a Realtor Anything, episode 7. So I'm glad you guys are back. Last week, if you recall, we were talking about being pre-approved and purchasing a house. Last week I spoke about things that might come about when you're pre-approved when you're going to buy a house. And I said that we were going to expound on the process a little bit better. We have about 10 steps that are traditionally in the process of purchasing a house. With everything that's involved, there's an infinite amount of combinations or ways that these steps can be played out. And they can be played out by different people, lenders, real estate agents, or individuals. So we're just going to get started. So one of the first steps is, like we were talking about last week, seeing a mortgage institution or a lender and becoming pre-approved. Now, sometimes that doesn't really happen because the individual doesn't know any better, so they seek out the advice of a real estate agent. Well, that real estate agent is going to help them find a lender that they like or point them in the direction of how to become pre-approved. So if it's a first-time home buyer, that's typically what happens. They need a lot more coaching and guidance to get the process done. We'll kind of go over a quick overview. The first 3 steps all have to deal with lending. Okay, they're going to seek out your mortgage institution or the lender or mortgage broker, receive the information and all the pieces of paperwork that they need and or required, and submit all those to them. And then number 3 is obtain the pre-approval letter and return it back to your real estate agent. That's the first 3 steps. So the next step is where a real estate agent really comes in handy, finding a home. Now, all of you can do all of your own online research. We are all capable of going to Google or Zillow or Trulia and finding houses to look at. But the real benefit of hiring a real estate agent comes with they have access to the MLS, which is the most up-to-date information. It's called the Multiple Listing Service, and your real estate agent can tell you about that. And the other benefits of hiring a real estate agent is you are represented by a third party. And typically, if they're a realtor in this area and they have the little R attached to their name, they are bound by a certain code and a certain code of ethics, and they are bound to those rules, so they need to uphold those. Now, not everybody does, of course, but they really do try. And that code of ethics is there to protect you as a client. Okay, but after that, home inspection. Okay, a home inspection is something that every homeowner or prospective homeowner should get. Okay, every piece of property that you purchase, you should always get a home inspection done on it. Of course, you can opt out not getting one, but we always do highly suggest everyone getting a home inspection. And typically, your real estate agent is going to point you in the direction of getting your home inspection completed prior to the end of the due diligence process. And maybe we'll create a video about due diligence and how it protects you and how it benefits you. But just keep in mind, the home inspection should be completed before due diligence is over. And that helps you make a decision on if you really want that house. Step number 6 is the lender is going to order third-party services. Your appraisal, anything else that the lender requires. Sometimes there's other key pieces of information that they require. Maybe if you're using a Veterans Affairs loan or anything like that, there's additional pieces of documentation that need to be filed. So the last few steps are all kind of happening really close to the end of the deadline or end of the closing time. The buyer's going to obtain some homeowner's insurance. You're also going to get the lender to update the loan package and make sure everything's ready to go. All the ducks are in a row and everything's ready to go to the closing table so that there's no hiccups. All right, on the day of closing, you don't want anything bad happening with your loan package because that can really hold up the process or make a deal fall through. Then step 9 is the pre-closing review or pre-closing interview, whichever way you'd like to look at it, but it kind of brings everybody together. I like to bring everybody on the same page, get the lender involved, make sure that my clients know what's involved with the closing date, and make sure everybody's bringing the required papers or the documentation or checks or certified checks, making sure that everything like that is all taken account for. Okay, I don't want any of my clients showing up to the closing table and realizing that, oops, we forgot something. Now, quick side story, I did have that happen, so that's why I said certified checks. I told a client once to bring funds, and they brought it on a personal check. So unfortunately, we didn't close right then, but they went and got certified funds, and then we still closed that day. But the fact of the matter remains, you need certified funds when you come to the closing table. So keep that in mind. All right, so in Utah, the closing table is actually the settlement table. That's where we're settling all of the finances. Okay, all the funding happens at that closing table, which happens usually at a title company. Closing is done after that when everything is recorded. So then you technically own the piece of property. So closing is from all the way up until you have, or from the very first of pre-approval till all the way to the end when the deal is actually recorded on the county registry. So really, there's a lot of steps involved in there, and I briefly touched on a lot of them, but it still remains that there are infinite amount of possibilities that those steps could go in any direction and in any order, and sometimes you go backwards, sometimes you go forward. So look out for some of those hiccups and bumps in the road. Hopefully I gave a good overview of those 10 steps and briefly touched on each one of those steps, but the best way to get all of these steps completed is to hire one of your real estate agents that's local, that knows your market and knows how to get things done inside of your market. All right, that's all we have for this week. Hopefully you guys come back for next week's question, and that comes from Charlie, and he wants to know all about HUD homes. So if you can come on back, that'd be great, and hit like and share so we can have more people asking questions. So thanks again. And I had spoke about things that might entail, scratch that. And so next week we're going to be talking about HUD homes and what the parameters are with those.